welcome on this session of webinar. This week we will tell you more about the Operations Hub, which is the brand new child of GE Digital. I hope you will enjoy it. As always, I'm Piotr Kondrak. I'm marketing specialist in GE Digital. In Wix Automation, not GE Digital, in Wix Automation. But Davide Cipolla is from GE Digital, and he is a technical engineer, and he will tell you more about the Proficy Operations Hub. As well, we have Łukasz Buczek this week as a presenter, but he will be this week as a support for you. If you have any question connected with anything that Davide will say, so problems with English, just type to double click on Łukasz as a presenter and ask him directly on private chat. Łukasz will be translating if you anything will be if you have any problems with understanding. So I hope you will not have, but anyway, that support I think it's needed. It's needed. Anyway, as always, if you have any questions connected with the presentation of the live demo of David, type that on chat. We will ask that questions after whole presentation in the Q&A session. So let me introduce Davide Cipolla from GE Digital. And Davide, I'm giving you voice.
Okay, thank you very much, Piotr. Good morning, everyone. My name is Davide Cipolla. I work for GE Digital. I've been working for them for 7 years now, and before that, I've always been working in the manufacturing and automation area for more than 12 years now. My role is pre-sales solution architect in GE Digital. That means I'm basically a commercial engineer, working with customers to understand their needs and helping them find, let's say, a solution to their problems in our products. What I'm going to present you today is Operations Hub. This is a new product from GE Digital, which has been released recently. And we will see a little bit an introduction about this product. We will see what it does, what it can do. I will not spend too much time on the presentation content. You will see that there are a lot of slides which are shared with you. This will be shared with you also afterwards, so you can go through the slides at your pace. What I'm more interested in showing to you today is the demo, so a live demo of the system, see what is possible to do. And then, of course, we will take your questions. One additional thing, I cannot speak Polish, of course, so this is why the presentation is in English. I will try to go slow, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send it on the chat, and we will take it later. I hope everything can be clear. I think that's good. So, Piotr, can we go with the presentation of the slides? Is that fine?
Yeah. I mean, I hope everything is, for everyone is okay. So let's start.
Let's start. Yeah. Okay, so I will jump about a little bit around with the slides. Like I said, I will not present the whole content. I will just go on the most important ones, just to give you a little introduction. We can see more about you will have the time to check all the slides later. So what is Operations Hub, and what makes it a valuable addition to our software portfolio? We do have we all know what we can do with SCADA, what we can do with HMI, but more and more the role of this is increasing. This means people, operators, supervisors, managers come to software systems which are fed by SCADA and by other systems to check what is happening on the plant, to get a quick look at what is the status of the plant, understand what is going on. And more it is happening that you don't only need information from one system, you need to get information from disparate systems and possibly see all this information together in one screen. The other big, let's say, topic is there is more and more automation on plants. There are more and more sensors. Data is being produced at an increasing rate. So how do we handle all that data? We need a way to easily display the data coming from the shop floor. So Operations Hub tries to address these challenges, and it gives you a set of tools to access information in an easy way. And that means many things. It's not just see the information, but it also allows you to create the views on the information. And that doesn't mean developing software. Creating the views means build an application without writing code in a very quick way, very rapid way, in order to leverage the data. You don't have to focus on building the application. You have to focus on what the application has to do and then using the application. You don't want to waste a lot of time on this. And this allows to have an overview of what's happening and improve the plant operations in the end. As soon as you can build in an easy way your application, you can easily also share it with all the people on the plant. So give visibility to everyone on the plant on what is happening. And this is good because it empowers people. So accessibility to information is important to let them leverage the data. And of course, the other thing is because the application can easily be developed, it can as easily be maintained and enhanced over time in order to improve what you do every day. So you don't need to go back to a software developer OGE every time. You can do it yourself. A little bit of an overview on who could use the data exposed by Operations Hub. This is not exhaustive. This is just examples. So you can have dashboards you can build dashboards for plant managers. You can build dashboards and KPI visualization for operators, for example, to give better visibility on what's happening. You can target your quality managers. And the really good thing is you can target all mobile users. So you don't need to have a native client, a Windows application in order to access the data. Everything is accessible through the web. So any HTML5 web browser will do the job. And not only on PC or laptop, you can also use a tablet. You can use a smartphone. You could even bring the information on a smartwatch. Everyone, of course, with the right permissions can access the data and can see what is going on. Let me see. Okay, one big thing that we will see in today's demo is the data model. So Operations Hub doesn't only allow you to gather data from different sources, but it also allows you to create a data model and an asset hierarchy of your plant so that you can easily navigate, you can easily retrieve the information, you can easily access the information. So we don't have, as it used to be in the past, a flat list of tags to choose which one we visualize. We can have tags assigned to equipment. We can have equipment templates, and we can say, okay, for this kind of equipment, I have always the same data. So as soon as I select the equipment, show me the data for that equipment. So really empowering the people to find the right data and not rely on very complex naming conventions or other approaches. And okay, as I said before, two aspects of it. One is the designer, so creating the application with a few clicks. The other one is the runtime view, so basically accessing the application as a user. And you see that the target audience for this is there is no developers here. There is process engineers, there is certified technician, there is a quality engineer, but it's not needed that you know how to code a web page. You will see how easy it is. And then the users, of course, of the page can be everyone plus all operation personnel. So what I would do now is let's move to the live demo to show a little bit what this is in practical terms. And then at the end of the demo, we can come back to the slides and maybe close a little bit the discussion. So what I will do, I will try to switch to the desktop sharing. And please let me know if this is all right. Just a second. Okay, you should now see my screen. Maybe can we get a couple of comments in the chat if you see the screen now? Just to confirm before I go on. Okay, good. Good. So this demo environment, little premise, this demo environment is hosted on a VM which is running on my laptop. So and you see there is VMware here. So just to give you an idea of if something is low in performance, it's not the fault of Operations Hub, it's my laptop. Okay, so just bear with me. Normally it's okay, but sometimes it slows down and there's nothing we can do about it. Of course, Operations Hub will normally run on a server, but in this case we use this system to show you what happens. There is a good reason to show you from this environment because we can do something more than the regular web environment that we would normally use. So let's go with this. So the first thing to show is the designer. I'm starting from the designer to do a little introduction, and then we will see directly one application that has been made with Operations Hub. The designer you see on the left, there is different tabs. The one that we are seeing now is the apps tab, and it tells you which applications have been defined for this particular environment. We will see in a minute the historian analysis app. This is an application provided by GE Digital, and it's free with historian. So you get Operations Hub and this application for free if you install the latest version of historian. And this is basically the new trend viewer of historian. All the GE Digital software is transitioning to Operations Hub for their viewers, for their UI. Why do I start from the designer? I do from here because I want to show the administration page, and this is the asset model administration. And the best way to start is from the navigation display. So for this demo environment, we have basically one further demo element, and then we have two areas of our simulated plant. One is a pump station, and we have several plants living there, and one is a production area with different equipment. We have created this model in Operations Hub, so we have created this hierarchy here. In the designer to create this hierarchy, you can use the types of assets, the object types, and the objects, so the instances that you have defined in this area. I will show that in a minute. And the good thing is that it's possible from this environment to export and import the asset types and the objects. So this configuration is portable between Ops Hub systems. And you see, we have defined several asset types for this plant environment. And for each of these objects, we have defined a number of variables that make sense for that object. What we have also done is we have mapped this, this is the types, so this is the templates, and this is the objects that we have created. So all displacement pump 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D are of type displacement pump, and we have mapped their variables of the objects in this hierarchy to tags on the simulated historian server that we have on this machine. So you will see in a minute what that means, but basically, in a nutshell, it means it's really easy to find your data. Let's see how it looks like. So let's open the historian application. And this is already OpSub. Historian analysis application. Let's give it a minute to load. And you see, this is the new trend viewer. So it will show the trend information here. And the right side, it has a legend. It's telling you which property it's showing. So how do I put my tags here? How do I visualize my data? I open this little window here. I decide if I want to look live data or historical data in the past. If I click historical, it will tell me that there is a limit to how much it can show, of course, but I can say, when do I want to start my viewing window and how much it will last, and I can give any duration with these controls. I can give trend to row, but I can give, for example, for long values, I can give average data. So instead of 5 hours, we can put 5 hours. Limit on the number of samples, of course, and it will show me over long periods. I can use this also over long periods. What we will see today is, okay, of course, you can decide how to parameterize this. I would switch back to live just because it's a little bit faster. And you see, this is how I select my data points. So of course, I have the classic historian view from server, flat list of tags, and I can pick any tag here and just put it, add it to the trend. Let's do 1 minute. It's a little bit more easier to see. But what I really like to do is look at it from the asset standpoint. And you have in this control, we have basically the same hierarchy that you have seen in the administration. I will go to the water pump station. And for this station already, I have some data available. I will move now to displacement pump A. And for this particular pump, I know I can show this data. So for example, I will say flow and pressure. And of course, the data is random here. It's not realistic data. I can enable this, the nodes. I can show that later. Let's go back to this. I don't want this demo property anymore. So I have this trend with flow and pressure. And you see all the points are, let's say, the single samples. If I move with my mouse on this, I can see the value of the samples. I can stop it. It's live, but I can stop it to take my time. And you see, I see the value of the samples here. I have automatic scales on the left and on the right, color coded. I have the time at the bottom, of course. And of course, I can zoom in and I can zoom out. I can go back to live data. Let's say this is what the trend viewer does. Another feature is, for example, the delta visualization. So let's stop it for a second. Let's go to the delta visualization. And I can say, oh, I really want to know the difference between these two elements, these 2 points. So I click here and I click here on the 2 samples. And on the right, I see the value for those timestamps. And I see the delta, the difference between the 2 points. And if I'm interested to see additional statistics and additional variables, I can click this little button here. And at the bottom, I will have this additional data. So minimum, maximum is a little bit small, but minimum, maximum, average value, total number, standard deviation, and so on and so on. So this is what the trend viewer allows me to do. Let's see another couple of things. In this menu, I can export to a CSV file, which I can then pull in Excel or another tool and do my stuff. I can print this. Of course, I can reset it to the original diagram. again, we said we want to give the operator a quick view on things. So do I have every day to open this control and add my own tags to see what I'm interested in and navigate to my asset? No, I don't need that. So I have my displacement pump 1A with the interesting information for me. I can save a favorite and say my pump 1A and add it to the list of favorites. And this is my pump A. And then I say, okay, I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see another. You see, I have saved other ones, for example. And if I just click, and it brings back all the settings that I have selected. So again, this was for the pump station, and I can see my data from the pump station. And I want to recall my pump 1A. I just click it. And there we go. So all my previous settings are saved. Another interesting thing that OpsHub lets you do is add nodes to the trends. So we have this trend and I say, oh, something happened here, really interesting. Double click and then a dialog opens, enter a note, something happened. I save it. And you see there is a little icon on the trend viewer showing me that there is a note for that. And if I click it, I can go and see the note, something happened. And of course, I want to add another note and say something there. And this will get stored. So whenever I bring back this window, I will see that there is a note that I can check it. So this is the trend viewer of Historian. The same application provides a double view, which, for example, can be useful to compare data from different assets without crowding too much the same view. So in this one, I can say my pump on this one and my pump 1A on this one, and it will bring them side by side. Okay, so this is how the Historian Trend Viewer works. As I said before, this is an application that we provide, and it's given free with Historian. So you get also the basic version of OpsHub free with Historian. But let's say the power of OpsHub is also creating the application. This is what we have said at the beginning. So let's move on and say how to do that. And we go back to the designer menu. And you see, I have the list of my applications. This is the one that we have been using, but we can create a new one. So I'll show one that I created real quick, and then we can create a page together. So creating a new application means basically from the apps menu, click on add new app, give it a name, and then in the new app, you add as many pages as you want. I have created 2 here. What you want to do before you go there is from the, let's say, home menu, create data sources. So create the way that you access your data. And this entities, queries, and data sources are the key to it. So let's start from the data sources. I have some data sources defined. In this case, I have local Historian, the Historian system for which we have seen the trends. But for example, I have added my own KPI server. What can I use of data sources? Of course, I can use the GE digital products for manufacturing. So we have Historian, we have plant applications, which is our MES system. We are adding support for iFix and Simplicity, which are your SCADA through OPC UA. But today, you already have access to REST API data sources, MQTT data sources, and in the near future, we're speaking about June now, we will have access to any SQL database. So you can basically connect to any SQL database as a data source. What I have done in this case, I have created this KPI server, and I have this little program which will simulate a KPI server, and I just typed in here what I wanted to return, just for me to be able to play with it. As soon as you have defined data sources, you can define queries. So the queries are very simply put, how you access your data. And again, if you're familiar, for example, with REST, you see that I only have to give it the address of the server, the resource URL, and then I have to say, okay, what kind of data do I get and where do I put the data? And this is where my entities come. So I can map the return of the result of my REST API queries to my entities. Entities in a nutshell are a simple way to create, I don't know, if from the technical point of view, it's like a database table. What is an entity? An entity is a structure, okay? Example, entity. It's a structure, so you can add fields. It's field 1 string, it's field 2, it's a number, and save. And then you just have to say, when you define your queries, I want to map my my data coming from the REST API to this entity. These entities, they do not get stored in Operations Hub, but they are used at runtime to host the data that you get from the different data source. Let's assume we have done all that, and we have, because we have the queries, for example, to get productivity, to get different KPIs. And let's move on and see the app. So, for example, real-time dashboard. So this is an app I created. It took really, literally, maybe half an hour to create this app. You put together the controls you have here on the left. This is the designer. You have a palette here. You have input controls with buttons, checkboxes, toggle buttons, and so on. You have display controls. Of course, these gauges are part of that. There are tables. You can have maps from Google Map. You can have lists. And of course, you can host also your own HTML code or an HTML page from another system. You have some layout tool to position the stuff on the page. And then you have some, let's say, tools upload from Excel. And of course, in the integration, we have the GE widgets from the application. For example, you have seen the historian application. We are using this GE trend card. So you can reuse the widgets from GE, from the GE application, in your own application. And what you do is drag and drop stuff on this screen, and that's it. So if we open this up, just to see how it looks, and then we'll create one really quick together. You see, I have created an app with 4 gauges and a table below, which shows basically the data coming from here. You see, this is, okay, we can refresh a little bit. And this is a kind of real-time dashboard that we can put on the screen. But you also can create very easily a historical report. This is a simple diagram. And again, it's getting data from this little KPI server that we have seen. Let's see how do we create our own page now. So let's go back to the quick KPI application and we add a new page and we call it My Page. And then, yes, we are brought to the editor. In the editor, for example, we can do, okay, we put a container. This is helping me to keep my things a little bit tidier in the page. I put 2 containers here. The first container, I actually, you see on the right, I have properties. I can decide the behavior of each control. I can say for this one, look, I want to have 2 columns because I want to put 2 gauges here. And in the one below, I will leave it as it is. And I will put my gauge. So here's one, and here's another. And these gauges are like this, but I can go quickly to the settings and say, well, you know what I want to do? I want a meter display, and I want it to look a little bit different. And okay, these numbers on it, which are let's say are given by the settings, but I can change the settings. I can say, for example, this will go from 0 to 100. Okay, this is the data. No, we will see that later. It's below. This we can go from 0 to 100, and this is percent because maybe it's a It's a KPI, and the default color will be red, but I want bands. I want it to be at, let's say, F50. I want to start yellow, and at 70 I want to start, I don't know, green, and I don't need another, let's say. So this is what I want my KPI to look like. I can put maybe a little header on top of this, and in the header I can say, I don't know, productivity, and I want it to look a little bit different, so I make it a little bit bigger. And for this, and this is my gauge. And below, for example, okay, let's put the historian trends that we have seen before. So I'll just drop it here. Now the difficult part, and the one that you might say, okay, but how do I connect this to my data? Well, it's really easy. I go to page data, and here I select of the queries I have defined. I select the queries that I want to use in this page to get my data. So, for example, let's add this get productivity, which will query this REST API server, and I want to say as soon as you can get the data. This is how I added the query, and I see that this query will give me a date and the value. Basically, it will give me couples of pairs of date and value for the productivity. So what I want to do, I want to take the value and associate to this. So I drag it and drop it on the gauge. And that's it. If I go back to the properties of the gauge, I will see that the source is now a data point, and it's date value from get productivity. And that's it, all I have to do. So I'll save the app. I can put a little message there to understand what I did. And then I will open the app in a new screen. And in a second, we will see what happened. So this is my old page. This is my old page. This is the new one, my page. And there you go. I click on it. It takes a second to retrieve the data. And of course, I've been lazy in this case. I haven't really configured the other gauge. I haven't really configured the historian one. I can send the historian one to a particular screen already. In this case, I haven't, but I could have said, please show this stuff immediately, right? And I have my KPI gauge here. I have my historian data here. You see, GE application and your own application together in one page. So going back to the editor, and let's see a couple of additional things. You might have noticed at the top of the page editor, I have these three little icons. The first is to say, this is how the page looks on my desktop, but I can click the other ones and say, this is how it looks on the tablet, this is how it looks on the phone. And maybe on the phone, you want to say, on the phone, the gauges are fine, but I don't really want to have the historian one because the phone screen is too small for that. So I click on the control, and on the right, I have the option to say, hey, don't show this on a mobile device. Don't show this on the phone. So Ops Hub will detect when it's running on the phone and prevent this control from appearing. The control is still there. If I move to the desktop view, it's still visible. But if I move to the mobile phone view, it's invisible. So I can actually customize how the page will behave depending on the device it is displayed on. So this is another feature. Of course, you can play with pretty much everything that you find here. As you see, anyway, it's not a matter of okay, yes, this is telling me that I haven't saved, but it's not a matter of coding. I haven't coded anything. The most difficult thing that I have done was define my query. For example, the get productivity that we have seen. I gave it the server, I gave it the resource. I can, of course, provide authentication if it's required, but then the system does everything for me. This is not coding, this is just configuration to get the data from another system. And as I said, REST KPI is one data source available today. MQTT is one data source available today. This is the language spoken by industrial IoT devices. So I can get these devices to send data directly to OpSub, and let's say also the historian and plant applications data sources are already available today. Coming soon, database access and OPC UA integration with, of course, iFix and Simplicity from GE Digital, but any OPC UA server will do as a data source. So this is a little bit it, I would say. I think we can quickly move to the questions now. I'll stop sharing my screen. If we need to show anything else, I'm here, but that's it I have to show today. Piotr, are you? Yes.
I'm coming back.
Yes. Okay.
Trying to not interrupt you during the presentation and lively mode. So I was as usually off. Yeah. So we have a question. The question is it possible to change the controller layout on a mobile phone, on mobile devices?
Yes. So what I have shown is let's say the thing that you can do today is hide some widgets from the iPhone display, for example, or a mobile device display, and show them in the case of a desktop display. I know that they're working to make this more flexible and, for example, change a little bit more how the page works. If you need a completely different page on the phone, then I suggest you make another page instead of modifying this one. But there is some level of, let's say, configuration possible depending on the device that you're working on. I don't know if this is answering the question or if there was anything else that needed an answer.
I will wait for the response from Mr. Robert, because it was his question. Yeah, that was that.
Okay, good.
I'm waiting for another question right now. Mr. Wojciech is typing, so we are waiting for the question. I'll switch for a second into Polish to say a few things about our marketing stuff that we are preparing.
Absolutely.
Panowie, jeśli chcielibyście przypomnieć sobie, czym jest Operations Hub, za 2-3 tygodnie ten webinar będzie dostępny na naszym kanale na YouTubie, także polecam dopisanie się do naszej listy subskrybentów. Ja już wysyłam Wam adres na YouTubie, mam nadzieję, że macie już go w ulubionych, ale jeśli nie, to odsyłam. Zachęcam do kliknięcia opcji subskrybuj i dzwoneczka, wtedy dowiecie się o naszych filmach jako pierwsi. Możecie także dopisać się do naszego newslettera. W newsletterach także wysyłamy informacje o, po pierwsze, najnowszych webinarach, a po drugie o webinarach, które już mamy nagrane i które na YouTubie już na Was czekają. Zachęcam do newslettera i zachęcam do YouTube'a. Możecie też nas polubić na Facebooku oraz LinkedInie, gdzie też informacje o webinarach aktywnie wrzucamy. Pojawiło się pytanie. There's one question more. Do we have alarms in the system, in the Operations Hub? Davide, are you?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. So the full support for alarms is coming with the OPC UA, let's say data source support. So at the moment there is no native alarm system, so you cannot connect to the alarms generated or visualized in the SCADA. What you can already do today, and it's not too difficult to do it in OpSub, is, for example, set a condition on a certain value and when the value goes above that condition, you can trigger, for example, something to appear. So now I'm just thinking aloud here. If you wanted to, let's say, have a picture, for example, of your line, of your plant, of your manufacturing area, you could associate these thresholds to important variables that you want to monitor, and when they go above the value, you can set up pictures to appear on this plan, on this map of your plant, in the right position. So to say, hey, there is an alarm now on this tank because the level has gone above a certain value, and you can show on the picture of that tank, you can show a little alarm picture, for example, and you can have the picture clickable. So when you click the picture, you are brought to a page which is showing what's happening in that particular tank. So you could create today, you could create your own, let's say, simple alarm logic in OpSub. As soon as OPC UA integration will be available with iFix and Simplicity, you will get all the OPC UA alarms and events as the data source, and they will be tightly integrated.
There was a question from Mr. Tomasz. What kind of hardware is needed to set up Operations Hub? What are the minimum system requirements? Łukasz was answering that question.
Yes.
That minimal hardware is Windows Server 2016, 2019, RAM memory 16 plus gigabytes RAM. But if there's anything more, you can add it.
The only thing I can say, this is the minimum. Of course, that depends largely on how big your application is in terms of complexity, how many users are accessing your application. To give you an idea, very rough, I was running this demo today on a VM which has 12 gigabytes of RAM, so a little bit under the minimum requirements. And my CPU is a Core i7 from 2 years ago on a laptop. So of course I was one user and the data is very small, but there is also Historian running on the same machine, but it's running pretty smooth. So again, it really depends how many users, how complex the pages are, but it's not a crazy request. And for some of our customers, we already have systems with Operations Hub server living on the same machine as, for example, the Historian server. So this means it's not too much, because a lot of the load in rendering the pages, for example, is on the client, is on the web client. So the web browser does the job of rendering the pages, and all the server has to do is provide the data and send the data back. I hope that answers the question.
I think yes. We have another question from Mr. Robert. How about the licensing of that product? How does it look? But I think that question we will answer with our sales department. So
yes,
Mr. Robert, I will take that question out of that presentation, and we will contact you with our sales department. So wait for a contact from, I think, Simon this time. So we'll not answer that question right now, because it's more technical presentation than sales presentation.
Yeah.
Mr. Tomasz as well typing. So I will switch again into Polish. Za tydzień widzimy się znowu. Tym razem wracamy do formuły piątkowej już w przyszłym tygodniu w piątek. Dowiecie się więcej o oprogramowaniu Historian i dodatku Exceladin. Ten webinar poprowadzi szef naszego działu technicznego, Paweł Nowak. Także za tydzień o 10 w piątek widzimy się na kolejnym webinarium. Tym razem Paweł Nowak, tym razem Historian, tym razem Exceladin. Więc szybkie przypomnienie, szybka dawka informacyjna dotycząca Historiana i Exceladina. Więc zapraszam serdecznie. Po zamknięciu tego webinara zobaczycie najpewniej okienko z możliwością zapisu na kolejny webinar, także zachęcam do kliknięcia w to właśnie okienko. Yeah, so David, we have another question. Can we use Excel spreadsheet as a data source currently?
So Excel spreadsheet as a data source means you want to read data in real time from an Excel file on a file system. Is that what it means?
I'm asking. We are waiting for the response from Mr. Tomasz. Mr. Thomas, is it, yeah, or yes. Example, shift manager is having some data that he wants to share.
Okay. If it's a fixed Excel, let's say that you want to upload and leverage the data, one thing that is possible to do, maybe I can share my screen again to show quickly. Give me a second. Okay, so can you see my screen again?
I can see it, so I hope everyone.
There is a piece of this. Okay, so this is the page we have seen before. In the tools, there is a upload Excel tool, and I can just drag it here, the widget, and it gives me an option to upload an Excel. So that means I cannot use it as a data source, ready data source, but when I open a page, if I want to show some data contained in an Excel, I can probably use this one, and it will send the data to an entity. What I wouldn't know on, let's say, by heart, I would have to check, is okay. What I don't know is will this data be persisting between sessions, or is it just as long as you keep the page open? Okay, so it's not a regular data source like you find in here, because at the moment here I can only add the historian or plant applications or REST API or MQTT, but you can, in a page, for example, upload an Excel and leverage the data in that Excel. So my understanding would be you can upload an Excel while you are visualizing a page and visualize the data in that Excel. And probably if you create a standard format for the Excel, you can just upload the Excel and the data will be displayed immediately on the page. I would be interested to know what would be the requirement for using Excel as a regular data source and how would that work. So if you want to reach out with details after this call, that would be interesting, because it's always interesting for our product management to understand new use cases, and if they are let's say valuable for a lot of people, they will be happy to consider adding them to the roadmap. Okay.
So do we have another question? Do we have other from Mr. Tomasz? Thank you. So do you have another question? Do you have any other question that we
maybe I can say something more, because I see there is interest to understand how to interact with this. So what you have seen today is let's say the standard controls which are available in Operations Hub. This will be let's say this is what you can do with the basic system. If you want to do something more complex and integrate it with Operations Hub, there is a possibility to do that. So there are a couple of options that you have. With OpsHub Designer, we provide an SDK, software development kit, that you can use. And with this SDK, you can do different things. You can design your own widgets. So basically your controls that will appear in the integration tab of your editor. So you can have your own controls. Of course, you have to respect a certain interface. If you want to do something specific, you can do that. So that is a way of extending the system. There is also a plugin system in OpsHub which lets you really not just define the plugin, but also define a particular behavior that you want to have in the application. So if what you want to do is, let's say, too complex for the tools provided, you can create a plugin using the SDK, and you can add your own, let's say, set of logic and behavior. So let's say we are working on this to keep this available for everyone and to expand the system. The plugin system is the one that was used to create the historian trend. So the historian trend is not only a widget, it also knows how to find a historian server, connect to a historian server, and do a little bit more things. This is the kind of behavior, additional behavior that I was talking about. We use this plugin system ourselves, and we encourage everyone that has some needs to use this system if the provided tools are not enough. And then, of course, the other thing that we have discussed very quickly is you might have web screens from other applications, and maybe you just want to show those screens as well, together with your own widgets and KPIs and on your dashboards. That is possible. So you can just include any web content in the pages. One thing that is coming when the OPCDA support will be there is also we will be integrating the web space functionality here. So you will be able to see your SCADA diagrams in Operations Hub next to the list of alarms, next to the trend viewer, next to the KPIs. So that means you can keep the SCADA to do the job of SCADA and only show, mimics for your equipment. And every additional, let's say, data, any additional display that is not inherently SCADA, is not inherently HMI, so anything that, for example, is overview for managers, you can keep in Operations Hub. And you can have the two together. So the same dashboards that the management sees can be shown to the operators. And that makes things a lot easier for everyone, because everyone can realize what's going on, what is the status of a certain process, and so on and so forth. Just to give an idea of how Operations Hub is growing, the 1.5 version is the one that you have seen today. The 1.6 is already available, but we haven't had the time to set up a demo environment. It's been released really recently. The 1.7 is coming in June, and by the end of the year we'll have the 2.0. The team is working very hard on this in order to provide more and more functionalities to everyone. So the possibilities will be more and more with every release. Okay, what you have seen today is just a taste, I would say.
It's great to hear that the possibilities are growing with every month.
Oh, yes.
So if you have no other questions for now, we'll, I think, closing that webinar window. So thank you for your thank you that you are with us during all those webinars that we had during last week, and thank you for your presence during that webinar. I hope you enjoyed the live demo of Davide. You will ask us about demos of Operations Hub as well. So if you want to do it, then just write us an email on vix@vix.com.pl or call us. To jeszcze po polsku. Jeśli chcielibyście uzyskać demo Operations Hub, koniecznie skontaktujcie się z nami vix@vix.com.pl bądź dh@vix.com.pl. Prześlemy Wam stosowne informacje, prześlemy Wam odpowiednie demówki Operations Hub, bo jest on już też dostępny w wersji at least to see all those new fabulous things in the newest child of GE Digital, the Operations Hub. I hope to see you soon. I hope to see you soon, maybe in Italy, maybe in Poland, maybe in other places. So thank you, and see you next week. See you next week, all of you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.